Today we will talk about two topics. The first is the robbery of United States social programs, robberies that have been committed and are being committed by immigrants. Among them are Russians, Somalis, Venezuelans, Armenians, and also Brazilians have stood out. We will also talk about mass checks of immigrants starting from 1995 to the present day. There will be a halt on new visas from, I think, 75 countries where some have really stood out, and others a little less, but still stood out. Nevertheless, regarding the robbing of the United States, it actually turned out that more than 50 immigrants who arrived after 1995 are receiving one or more government programs, so-called benefits. They counted 75 countries from which immigration over the past 30 years has drained American money in much larger amounts than, well, let's say, brought any benefit to America. Notice that from 1970 to 1995, there were no complaints about European immigration. Were there any crooks in 1971, 2002, 2003, or 2008? Of course there were, yes, but not in such massive and disgusting numbers. Thanks to the Somalians, by the way, for paying attention to this mess and this robbery. So, because of what they did, the United States started paying close attention to what immigrants were doing. Now we'll talk about what's happening, what's being prepared, and what this will bring or do to us, to our relatives. Let's put it this way. Right now, it's being taken away, maybe from entry, for example. Yes, and for those who are here, it's taking away status changes. Let's start with something else. Namely, with the fact that insane liberal women are attacking police officers. Yes, that's exactly how insane liberal women are attacking police officers. Naturally, not with their hands or bodies, but using cars. And about the fact that the Democratic Party has declared open season on police officers, as they say. In the United States, as I said, a hunt for police officers has begun. You probably thought that after the police officer opened fire and killed the driver and activist, meaning Renee Good, other driver activists wouldn't take such risks anymore. You were wrong. Unsatisfied women, well, mostly sexually, who Vladimir Zhirinovsky didn't provide with a personal man. They started throwing the bodies of their SUVs at people in uniform, any uniform, as long as it was male. They don't even ask, "Do you feel like a young, innocent maiden today?" Well, they did offer, they always ask, but as soon as they see, that I hesitate, the pants hit the gas.
A woman from Minnesota thought she could post a federal agent's home address online and get away with it, just getting lots of likes and reposts. Instead, she ended up committing a federal crime that could send her to prison for many years, and all of this was caught on camera.
It's funny that they now go around in pairs, whether walking or driving. One means a furious, rough woman is in charge, or just yelling loudly and pointing her finger, and the other one, well, let's just say, takes off her underwear on camera. That happens here too, mostly showing off her not-so-attractive backside, of course, while the other one is thrilled and records it with tears of happiness. And at the same time, she usually laughs gutturally or breathes heavily, and sometimes she laughs and breathes at the same time.
What you're about to see is a story about how one viral video from a crazy leftist ruined another activist's life in less than 48 hours. And we'll find out why she's the first of many more to come.
Right away, they rush to film their so-called scenes of resistance to fascism. I'm almost sure they have no idea how real fascists would react to something like this. Now, where do they post these scenes? Of course, on the internet, on social media. They show the world how cool and determined they are. And, between their second croissant and third latte, they're not afraid of anything.
Her name is Sara, and she lives in Chaska, Minnesota, in the same quiet suburb where Agent ICE Jonathan Ross's house is located. So, Ross is, of course, the federal officer who shot 37-year-old Renee Good on January 7th during an immigration enforcement operation in Minneapolis, after Good sped off in her car toward Ross, trying to escape federal law enforcement. Although officials from the Department of Homeland Security have since concluded that Ross was fully justified in the shooting, calling Renee Good's actions domestic terrorism, Sara, deeply influenced by the leftist madness that permeates so much of Minneapolis, disagreed.
It doesn't matter that Renee deliberately blocked the police's way. It doesn't matter that she disobeyed the officer's order and didn't get out of the car. It doesn't matter that she tried to run from the police. And it doesn't matter that she stepped on the gas in her heavy car and drove toward an armed officer in uniform while trying to escape. That's all. It doesn't matter that she attacked and he defended himself. What matters is that she wanted violence, and it was essential that the man was in uniform.
Hello, everyone. This is a message for the public. Jonathan Ross lives in my hometown of Chaska, Minnesota, and there are 2 police patrol cars parked in front of his house. This morning, I drove by just to see what was going on. I saw police officers there this morning. I turned around near them, drove away, and then went about my business. I came back because I wanted to ask if they were protecting him or protecting the public, whether they were protecting him or protecting society as a whole.
So this suffragist went to the house of the agent who shot Renee in the morning, saw the police there, turned around, left, and then came back after some time. Why did she go there? Well, she wanted to ask the agents. Are they protecting the world from him or him from the world? By the way, do you think she really came for that reason? Yes, the police left and came back just to ask these particular duty officers one smart thing.
And the police officer basically said, "We're here to protect society." He looked at me like I was a complete idiot. And well,
Of course, they decided that she was an idiot. By the way, I think so too.
it is what it is. Well, it is what it is. But I don't really believe him. I think they're protecting him. I think he's hiding at home. And I would really like everyone who doesn't like him to circle around his neighborhood. I'm not going to say exactly which road it is. Quarter Drive, you can figure that out yourself. But I'll just say that those numbers look a lot like a 1 and another 1. 2, 2.
0.
I don't know. Surround him and make him uncomfortable, everyone.
I think she believes that she's a kind, good, fair, and most importantly, highly moral person.
Well, what Sara apparently didn't realize, considering her almost complete illiteracy, is that she had just violated the United States Code, Title 18, Section 119. This federal law classifies as a crime the intentional publication of restricted personal information about a federal official under protection with the intent to threaten, intimidate, or incite violence. The punishment is up to 5 years in federal prison. The Minnesota law goes even further. Doxing law enforcement officers, if it seriously threatens the officer or their family, is a crime punishable by up to 1 year in prison and a $3,000 fine in the state. So, as you just saw in this video, Sara's clip didn't just reveal Ross's identity. It actively encouraged harassment and called on strangers to come to his home. However, the true severity of her problems was just beginning. Within a few hours, the entire internet turned against her, and her comments section exploded with outrage directed at her. People weren't just judging her, they treated her just as she had treated Ross. They found her employer, the massage therapy clinic where she had recently started working. They tracked down her social media accounts, they flooded her pages, she rushed to delete the videos, but it was already too late. Screenshots and screen recordings had already gone viral. The irony in this is almost poetic. Sara wanted to expose the personal information of a federal agent, but in the end, she ended up de-anonymizing herself.
As it turned out, there are tens of thousands of people like Sara. They became furious. Some because they spend all day with their kids, some because of boredom, some because they don't have kids, some because there are no men, and some because there's no meaning in their lives. And they find meaning in destroying other people's lives. They take revenge, calling it righteous anger or simply the thrill of having finally found their purpose, their calling. And this is it. This is revenge on the men who pushed her away and condemned her to the emptiness of despair and a dull envy mixed with hatred. And envy always actually gives birth to hatred.
Federal agents, such as Jonathan Ross, have already faced a staggering 8,000% increase in death threats since the Trump administration tightened immigration control. Department of Homeland Security spokesperson Tricia McLaughlin confirmed law enforcement officers and their families face unprecedented danger. Congress is considering the Law Enforcement Officer Protection from Doxxing Act, which would further criminalize intentionally disclosing a federal employee's name or address to obstruct law enforcement. But Sara's video didn't just cross a legal line. There's another boundary that was crossed, and it's much more sinister and fraught with serious consequences. The backlash will cause panic among liberals nationwide.
A country cannot exist when those who are supposed to protect its laws are under attack. We saw thousands, I think, of black people in 2020 looting stores. We saw hired Antifa members, well, mostly white, but there were black people too, smashing up universities. Now the left has somehow managed to stir up and wind up yet another group of the offended. The offended, emotionally charged, lonely women. At the same time, they may be married with 2 children but still feel lonely. They are confused and emotionally broken. And here she was given a purpose, a goal, and given an object. Unfortunately, an object of hatred. And this object must suffer no matter how it affects her, the avenger. The object must suffer for everything she had to go through in her life.
There was something much more sinister in Sara's action than just breaking the law. What you just saw was a psychosis among the radical left, which has been called Anarcho-Tyranny, which Sam Francis described as a combination of repressive state power used against the innocent and law-abiding. At the same time, it completely exempts certain races and identities from any legal responsibility. This is a notable cognitive dissonance seen during the January 6 events. And just a few days ago, all the Democrats were telling us this, those who still hold candlelight vigils every year on this day, that a violent attack on federal officials was the greatest assault on American democracy in the history of mankind. But then the next day, January 7th, Renee Good was shot. We are told that a violent attack on federal agents using one's own vehicle is actually the duty of every morally responsible person. I heard Benny Johnson say the other night that this mass psychosis, this cognitive dissonance, will one day have to become, well, the subject of psychological research. And how can these people so clearly hold 2 mutually exclusive beliefs at the same time? What Benny may not realize is that we already have a study discussed in yesterday's video by Polish psychologist Andrzej Lobachev. And his work on the so-called political ponerology. Ponerology comes from the Greek word poneros, which means evil. Political ponerology is the study of political evil. And what Lobachevsky did was study the European left for 40 years, especially European Marxists. And after 40 years of research, he came to the conclusion that all these people, these leftists, were psychopaths, that these people, these leftists, were all psychopaths.
We could have told Lobachevsky that he would get exactly this result, but, well, actually, now we are getting confirmation of this phenomenon. Some of the communo-fascists are scoundrels, meaning for their own benefit they will send millions to Siberia, to camps, to dig some canals, simply to their deaths, and some are completely unbalanced. Balanced psychopaths with burning eyes and a clear mind. They are always right, always.
They were narcissistic psychopaths. And as part of their psychopathy, they derived a unique pleasure from manipulating people, intentionally causing them harm. So logical consistency gave way to human manipulative malice. I still think in the end that these people, the new leftists we see in Minneapolis, are united in their absolute and complete contempt for our country. So January 6th and the celebration of federal law enforcement in Washington can be used to destroy the growing Make America Great Again movement. Great, let's do that. But if smearing those same federal law enforcement officers in Minneapolis is the key to destroying the growing Make America Great Again movement, well, fine, let's do that too. The common factor is not dialectics. The common factor is destruction, and the result of all this is deception. Anarcho-tyranny is repressive punishment for law-abiding citizens while completely freeing liberal identity groups from any legal responsibility.
They introduce a new term, anarcho-tyranny. Actually, I'm fine with the term we've been using for a long time, communo-fascists. Anarcho-tyranny means tyranny through supposedly unorganized gangs, which is, of course, even worse than fascism, because fascists want to milk us, not kill us. Well, anarcho-tyrants, anarcho-bandits have no intention of coming back tomorrow, the day after, or even in a year. And that's why they absolutely don't care whether we survive or if our homes, fields, and production burn down. But I still think that those who incite the crowds don't want to destroy us, but rather to milk us day after day, year after year, and let us graze a little so we don't die off completely, taking us out to pasture. Here, graze, 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 graze. My God, my Russian language, so that you would fill me up again. That's the only goal. Do you want to see another idiot like that? Maybe this time a woman instead of a man? Let's find out.
Wait.
Foku Texas plates.
Get out of the car, get out of the car, get out of the car, open the window. He's in the process, he's ready, he can, my braids, climb through the window carefully. What's behind? Be careful. Oh my God.
Watch out ahead. Get out of the way.
Get off the road.
Get out of the car.
Cut it out now.
Stop it and turn off the car. I'm trying.
What are you doing? Get out of the car.
Get out now.
Now, take it easy. Well, the same, or by the way, just as much of an idiot, or maybe even more than Renee. And this Sara, and here's another fool.
If I keep seeing you following us, interfering with us, honking your horn, blocking our cars, there's a very high chance I'll make a very bad decision and get arrested. It's clear today?
I think I made the right decision.
Why? Immigration police have already sent 3,000 officers to Minneapolis because it's boring there. There are very unruly Somalis living there. About 150,000, I think. And there's absolutely a lot of theft and mutual cover-ups. $9 billion have disappeared without a trace, and thousands of people are involved in the criminal activities of this Somali syndicate. And again, the police are there to sort things out, make arrests, and most importantly, protect those who are trying to investigate fraud cases. The city authorities and state leadership are doing everything they can to try to stop the investigation and the arrests. Naturally, because someone might start talking. Criminals from all over the world end up here. Listen to who they're trying to keep from being arrested.
So, you heard Mayor Frey say that there are thousands and thousands of people here protesting and resisting immigration and customs enforcement during patrols. We saw this in real time, you know? As soon as Border Patrol agents get out of their car to detain or question someone, they're immediately surrounded by people with whistles that are deafening. And there are neighborhood watch groups here against immigration agents, and they're actively operating in Minneapolis right now. Back to you in New York. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Matt. What happened is unacceptable, and what they're obstructing since Immigration and Customs Enforcement released some of the detainees they're supposedly watching. Among these protesters, someone was convicted of killing a citizen of Burma, and he was arrested by Immigration and Customs Enforcement officers. An illegal immigrant from Guatemala, wanted in the country for murder, who had already committed it, was arrested for attempted murder by a Sudanese man, a Somali man convicted of manslaughter, a Mexican illegal immigrant convicted of murder, 2 murder charges, Sierra Leone, 2 murder convictions, a Mauritanian and a Sudanese citizen convicted of murder and child rape. The list goes on. And these guys in the street, including, tragically, the woman who recently died after attempting to run over and kill an officer.
Protesters are trying to stop law enforcement from catching criminals who are killing them. Can you even imagine that? Criminals are killing their children, and these crazy lunatics, I don't even know what to call them, are fighting and losing their lives for the right of criminals to kill their children. But honestly, after the whole thing with men and girls showers, which they were shouting about, screaming their heads off so they could have the right to change their gender, and also screaming for 12 and 11-year-old kids to have the right to decide for themselves, it's a complete crazy madhouse. And honestly, after seeing women's boxing with men participating, I guess nothing surprises me anymore. People are now willing to risk their lives for illegal immigrants' rights. Killing your child, by the way, would only matter if it were the children of those who are fighting. Yeah, well, in the end, why? That's my business, yeah, but the thing is, killers, thieves, rapists, and swindlers don't just rob Democrats, they rob us too. And that's something I really don't like. Let's start by not letting anyone in from these countries. A. Armenia. A. Azerbaijan. B. Belarus. Well, I have the full list, ladies and gentlemen, but first, why not let them in? From these and another 72 countries.
The State Department is indefinitely halting visa processing from 75 countries to combat immigrants who, per the Trump administration, misuse government benefits. To analyze this important decision, we have with us the Deputy Editor-in-Chief of The Hill, Sara. Hello, Sara. What can you share about the countries on this list and when the suspension begins? COM.
That's right. This pause will take effect quite soon, starting from January 21 and onward, and we can see that. The State Department, in a new memorandum, published a list of 75 countries, which includes countries like Pakistan, Afghanistan, Thailand, Iraq, Iran, Russia, and Venezuela. We also saw countries like Kuwait on this list. So basically, this is the situation. The State Department has announced that it is reviewing its vetting procedures. And until that happens, it will suspend absolutely all visa processing for citizens of these countries.
It's important to note that no time frame for the suspension has been given, at least for now. So, until the next decision, as they say, for now it's for a long time until they sort something out. The question is, what exactly?
This pause was intended to prevent the entry of foreign citizens who could receive social and government benefits. The Trump administration has been hinting at these tough measures for several months now. What can you tell us about the public charge rule they're using to justify this?
That's right, Drew. The public charge rule in United States immigration law can lead to denial of visas or green cards. If an applicant is likely to become mainly dependent on the government for support, usually through cash aid or long-term government-funded institutional care, right? So the current rules focus on cash benefits, and they include many non-cash benefits like food stamps, housing assistance, and Medicaid. And traditionally, this decision has included evaluating various factors such as age, health status, income level, education, and so on. Do you know what work they might do when they arrive? All of this aims to prevent immigrants from burdening taxpayers. We also know that recent Trump-era proposals aim to expand officers' authority. We saw a lot of visa denials under the Trump administration, and recent data this week also showed that nearly 100,000 visas were denied during the Trump administration. So we see the Trump administration is tightening visa issuance. We also saw the fight over H-1B immigration visas intensify, and many lawsuits are already being prepared about this.
Everyone who arrived since 1995 will be checked. Maybe with AI this is now possible, but it's about receiving any government, state, city, or public assistance. We don't know how they will decide what exactly will be the trigger. Of course, yes, well, let's just say at some point they organized Department of Justice and somehow identified things. They will probably use the same technologies, but together with yesterday's announcement about canceling green cards and even citizenship status, if forgeries, fraud, schemes, manipulations, and the like are discovered, this could lead to deportation even to countries that no longer exist.
Congressman Brandon Gill.
Show your evidence. What percentage of Somali households in Minnesota are on Medicaid? I don't know. Is it 73? Do you know what that number is? For native Minnesota households? Again, this phrase, native Minnesotan households, but the majority number is 18. That's quite a striking difference. I think we agree. Allow me to answer. Let me ask you one more, and then we'll get to this. What percentage of Somali households are on welfare? I really don't know. 81. How about, let me just ask you, after 10 years in the United States, what percentage of Somali immigrant families are still receiving welfare? I don't know. That number is 78, so even after 10 years, 78% of Somali immigrant families are still receiving welfare. Do you know what that number is? For families headed by native Minnesotans, again, the phrase is households headed by an immigrant, not a Somali, not, if I can just answer the question, you're talking about native Minnesotans. Most Somalis from Minnesota are just as Minnesotan as we are. They were all born in the United States, only 8,000 out of 108,000 Somali immigrants. And yet the use of welfare is strikingly different. Let me ask you again, does this make Minnesota stronger or weaker? Again, I would like the opportunity to answer the question here. So, again, most Somalis from Minnesota were born in the United States, as far as I understand. Well, what percentage of working-age Somalis who have lived in the United States for 10 years or more, 10 years or more, how many of them speak English very well?
I don't know.
About half. The answer is about half. That seems pretty low, doesn't it? Am I trying again? I don't think that strengthens our country, and I believe most Americans agree with me.
Do you agree with him?
So who will be screened and who won't be allowed in? As I said, Russia, Armenia, Azerbaijan, Belarus, Cuba, Cambodia, Afghanistan, Haiti, Iran. Well, that's not surprising, right? Kosovo, Moldova, Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia, stop. No. I suddenly went the wrong way. These are all fine. So Mongolia, Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, phew, what a, so to speak, Estonia, yes, Laos, then Georgia, Laos, and Bangladesh too. They won't let people in from Bangladesh either. That's it. That means there's no Ukraine, Poland, Czech Republic, Hungary, or any of the Baltic countries, which I just decided to add. That means there weren't any clever schemers coming from there who thought America was a country of unsuspecting fools or idiots. Thank you, dear ones, Armenia and Russia. There, Azerbaijanis and Cambodians taught and scared the country of unsuspecting fools, its population. Well, now they've scared them, did their job, and taught them. Now go home, but just put the money back on the table. Serving time here, we have some of the best prisons in the White Union, with sentences from 3 to 10 years. Then back home to Uganda, or maybe Miami, Albania, or even Cambodia. By the way, I'm sure that if someone flew in from Sudan and wants to go back to Belarus, no one will object.
Of course, there's Brazil, Russia, Iran, and we've seen 75 countries, so Brazil is in good company as far as we know. The State Department has data on which immigrants from which countries tend to use American welfare benefits when they arrive in the United States. And did this serve as a kind of guideline for making decisions about these 75 countries? As you mentioned, this concerns immigrant visas. Those who will come here this summer for the World Cup, or those who come on business and tourist visas. This will most likely affect family members, those who are already in the United States, and others who are planning to move here to live and work on a permanent basis.
The blow is specifically aimed at those who have already moved here, or who are bringing their relatives here. I truly sympathize with them. But after finding out immigrants who came from Russia, Moldova, Azerbaijan, Kazakhstan, and Armenia quickly forget about it, that means they should be grateful to America, but instead they start ruthlessly taking advantage of and robbing it. Trump. They blocked entry for their relatives and will deal with those who are already here. And if someone can't explain where they suddenly got so much money from, like buying a $6 million house and putting 4 Mercedes cars in the garage, we fly first class and keep 2 or 3, I don't know, maybe Thai or San Salvadoran girls for cooking, cleaning, and taking care of the children. Or we carry cash in a suitcase to the Cayman Islands or Kazakhstan. Life just keeps getting more and more interesting. What do you think? It seems very much like a roller coaster, but with double acceleration. Well, let's wrap it up here, because very soon there will be new news, and of course, I'll do my best to bring it to you.